Hello, hello, everybody. How are you? So, this session, you are in the right place if you are here for, let me make sure that you are here for Teaching Practices Through Nature with Kendra Price, Alycia Wright, and Journei Bimwala. And so during the course, let me tell you about what this workshop is about, or what this panel is about, excuse me. I'm excited about this. So this was something that I know they were like, I know Journey hadn't heard from me in a long time. But I've been taught in conversation with Kendra Price, who I just adore, and I'm always amazed with all the things that she's doing. And Alycia Wright, oh my God, when we talk about role models regarding the lengths in which she's taken her homeschool collective is amazing. So I definitely wanted to have a conversation about homeschooling and this connection to nature. So teaching practical skills through nature is it's about nature is not just a classroom, it's a place for discovery, growth, and the development of essential life skills. In this engaging panel discussion, Kendra Price, Alycia Wright, and Journei Bimwala share their experiences and expertise in using the natural world to teach practical skills that inspire curiosity, resilience, and self reliance. From outdoor exploration and gardening to survival skills and environmental stewardship, this session will highlight creative ways to integrate nature based learning into your homeschool curriculum. So, without further ado, I would like for all of our speakers to introduce themselves. I have so much that I can say about each of these gorgeous individuals, but I would love for them to share with us a bit about who they are, what they are doing currently. As community members, as homeschool members, like Journey, I know the last thing I saw you were foraging. Now you're doing things with the state of New York. So I need you all to introduce and tell these people what you're doing, and then we're going to engage in a conversation. So if we can start with from my viewpoint, I see Journey first, and then Kendra and Alycia.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. I am honored and it's a blessing to be here. My name is Journei Bimwala. I'm a clinical herbalist and a foraging practitioner, as well as a homeschool educator. So I have three children, 22, 11, and 16. So I've been homeschooling since my oldest was in the fourth grade. So, and it has been an amazing experience. So, what I'm currently doing, nature stuff. I love nature. I love the connection to nature, and I've came to this through homeschooling. Like, my children, homeschooling actually brought me to what I'm currently doing, being involved with plants. And it started off just as like doing classes with my children, going out walks and noticing plants. And then it evolved into a career of mine as an herbalist, as a foraging practitioner, working with the state botanical garden and parks on connecting people back to the land and introducing them to the wild plants and all the various possibility for social justice, right? Having access to land, which is a big thing. I live in New York City, and you'll think that everyone has access to green infrastructure, and unfortunately, we don't. So I do a lot of work in programming those spaces and bringing what we have lost, the art of being connected with nature, herbalism, and all these things back into people's lives. So yeah.
All right, I guess I'll go next. My name is Kendra Price. I have been homeschooling my four kids since 2013, around there. I have a junior animal science pre-vet major in college. She's in her junior year. And I have a soon-to-be freshman in college majoring in nursing in the fall. And then I have a 13-year-old son and a soon to be a 12-year-old. So what I'm doing right now, I consider myself an eclectic homeschooler, but my homeschooling has really evolved because of my kids' interest. So we've been heavily involved with 4-H. My son and I both discovered that we have a passion for, and my daughter have a passion for gardening and plants, but also how that impacts food deserts and addressing food insecurity. We talk about land and space. I'm also just wrote up some information for hydroponics. So I'm really big on youth education in terms of gardening and healthy eating. So I'm currently um, an intern to become a master gardener. And I've taught homeschool classes or co-ops about gardening and looking to really engage, especially the Black community where I live, about self-reliance in terms of with these high food prices and food deserts and whatnot, how you can do canning and how you can do hydroponics and grow your own food indoors and things like that. So that's about it for me, but this all sprung from my kids' interest. They have also My daughter has gotten scholarship money behind, and other programs, so I'm really also big on showing or educating people about how this can turn into careers because agriculture and money in agricultural to become college students for free is a big deal right now. So anyway, that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Alicia?
Peace, everybody. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. And when you just feel like at home when your co folks are saying all the things that are like vibrating with you. You're like, oh my gosh, yes, 4-H, we know 4-H, and oh my gosh, herbalist, clinical herbalist, like I'm working on it. Oh, it's so nice. And hopefully, some of the conversations that we're going to have here will inspire others of you to explore some of these same pathways. So, I run a homeschool cooperative in Richmond, Virginia called Cultural Roots, and we are very much culturally arts centered, but a large part of what we do also is a lot of environmental work. So, our youth are involved in the youth climate change movements, and our speakers, and are doing all the things. We also have been a part of 4-H for, I'm thinking about 13, 14 years now. My oldest started at, I forget what the youngest level is called because I don't have anyone at that level anymore, but we've just been there. So I have a 20-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, and an 11-year-old. Um, I personally have lots of interests. My husband and I purchased a couple of acres of land a couple of years ago with the intent of creating a Black farm school and forest school combined. And I just love tapping into resources and learning what others are doing and finding out ways to really just then help inspire young people. My goal is for young people to grow up having the knowledge of foraging, having the knowledge of herbalism, having a grounded connection, understanding that we and the earth and the other animals were all the same. And
I love
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
love
just
that. I get so excited when I see on your social media how you are making those connections. I think recently you had the children making remedies using nature, like home remedies. And that reminded me, I Journey in her foraging class. I think I paid for the foraging class, but I got caught up in work and couldn't participate when you were offering it virtually. But that was something. So, and then Kendra, like with being a master gardener, so all of you, in a way, are not only interested in using nature and engaging with nature, but looking at it in this really holistic, healing journey of, Alicia said it best with understand this connection between yourself and nature and animals, but also how the land is here, as we're a part of it. So you all have been using certain terms, and I just want to ask that if you can talk a little bit about some of these terms, because I don't want to make the assumption that everybody knows what we're talking about when we talk about foraging or when we talk about 4-H, really. So if one person can talk about foraging, what that is, and how you have engaged your homeschooling children into that, and if someone can talk about 4-H, and if someone in the chat, if the audience, if there are other terms that were mentioned that you would like for us to clarify, if you can post them in the chat as well. But let's start with foraging and 4-H.
Okay. I'll take foraging. So foraging is the art of gathering food, of medicine in whatever form that you find outside, right? It can be in the woods, it can be at the park, it can be in your backyard, things that you haven't grown yourself that you find outside. So that is foraging. And for me, the way that we initially started it was just like learning about what's accessible and edible and medicinal within the area and taking the children out on the walk and noticing the plants, what it is good for. So it brings you into learning botany. And then like how to use this particular plant for the body and tasting, talking about the senses. Then it's not just about food and medicine because I have children that are interested in art. So it's like being in a space looking at the different nuances of colors that comes into the space, the animals, the sound. So you can literally forage anything. You can find a piece of wood that you find it to be a beautiful artistic thing and want to take it home and use it as an accessory into the space. And it's really engaging with nature and taking ownership of what is rightfully ours, which is the right to nature or right to whatever is being grown naturally. We have access to that and just kind of like being in that space of reciprocity, because that's big in foraging. You're taking from the land, which also means that you have to care for the land. So learning about what does that look like for us as a family when we go out there, what is our part in taking care of the land? And it'll show up differently for each one of my children, and even for myself. But you're allowing each one to come up with their own ideas of what that is, because I see your relationship with nature, it's personal. It's between you and nature. So to come up with something that you will like to do and kind of can stick with versus something that I give upon you to do and then becomes like, oh, this is something my mommy wants me to do. So that's pretty much foraging. And in my family, well, for me, anyway, I forage the way people go food shopping. So it's a daily lifestyle kind of thing.
You said you forage like you do food shopping?
Yeah, the way people go food shopping, that
So
is
so
how
you
I
can't
forage.
you can't just throw that out there and not tell us what on earth, what does that mean? What does that mean?
So that means like every week, a couple times a week, I will, on my way home, how you stop at the supermarket and pick up a couple things. Well, I might stop at the park or at the wood, at the forest and pick up a few ingredients from the forest, from nature that I need to use at home. And then I have days where I'm going with my big basket for a much bigger harvest. And that's a weekly 365 kind of thing.
And you still not gonna tell us what you putting in that basket and what you are getting from this park.
Yeah, so it's like every season, it's something different, which is the beautiful thing about foraging is that nature literally teaches you not to be attached to things and to try things differently each time and to be aware of what your needs are. So I only take what we use in my household. So from the summertime, I still have in my refrigerator, I've harvested tons of cornelian cherries. They are delicious to eat out. They are great for UTI. So if anybody ever gets a UTI, they can just eat the fruit and be okay. We'll make teas. Right now, I've been harvesting a lot of nettles, burdock roots, stinging nettles. When me and my girls are going through our cycle, there's a specific tea and drinks that I make out of that, to nourish the body. Mushrooms, turkey tails, tons of that. So there's actually A lot. Yes, cornelian cherry specifically. It's not a true cherry. It's a dogwood, but they call it cornelian cherries because they resemble the two pairing like cherries.
That's fantastic. And so while Kendra and Alycia tell us about 4-H, post in the chat where folks can learn more about your classes to sign up to learn about what you just spoke of regarding foraging. So, Kendra, Alycia, which one of you want to take it first regarding 4-H?
Okay, I saw Alicia point, so I was gonna give it to you, sis, if you wanted to go first. But I am, I am a huge fan of 4-H. Um, 4-H is we have it started because my daughter said she wanted to be a vet, and I couldn't think of. I'm like, okay, if I'm trying to get her a scholarship or trying to get her high school experience, what can we get her involved in? But 4-H is so much more than that. So 4-H stands for Heart, Health, and Hands. It's a youth development organization that um, m- it grooms children, or I shouldn't say grooms, but it prepares children to be leaders in their community
Yeah, we're
now.
going to stay away from that word for right
All
now.
right. Negative connotation, but it prepares them. So instead of kids looking at, oh, one day when I grow up, I want to do this. No, 4-H is like, what can you do in your community? What needs can you serve now? And how can we prepare you and give you the tools you need to do that? So for example, when it comes to nature, 4-H, like, first of all, anything they're into, arts, um, public speaking, robotics, politics, anything that your child is engaged in, pretty much there's some avenue of 4-H that is will develop them. Um, but in terms of one of the constant things since COVID that my kids have been engaged in is learning about gardening, but also specifically being introduced to food scarcity, and how to address within communities, learning about food deserts, how to educate younger kids about food scarcity and food insecurity. And so from that, so we moved from Fort Worth because I live in Texas to Central Texas, and I've been excited because my daughter really took off with it. And we started a community garden. And she also has participated in like the Norman Borlaug program where she learned about not just food insecurity, but also how to connect stakeholders, like for example, the HEB stores and different ones in order to address it. Um, so so in a nutshell, and I'll pass the mic on, but 4-H has been instrumental, especially because the 4-H that I belong to or we belong to is HBCU focused. So it is a predominantly black 4-H club, local 4-H club. But so they have not only been developed in terms of learning about entrepreneurship, gardening, and leadership, and that type of thing, but they also have been introduced to community leaders that own businesses that are Black. So 4-H, I can't say enough good things about it. All right, Alicia.
Okay, so Kendra hit exactly what I was going to emphasize is that 4-H is a great organization in terms of what it does for my family, but it does have a history like a lot of organizations, right? And a lot of times when we're talking about agricultural spaces, they are not full of us anymore. The government made sure by taking away lands, Black lands. That's the whole conversation in itself. But what I will say is that your local extension office, every state has extension offices. It's a part of what's sort of like the services. And most states will have two, and they're usually universities, large universities. And in your case, Kendra, and in mine, I'm thinking probably yours, there are two colleges, one at HBCU and one at not HBCU, right? Your experience will vary depending on
Yes.
which one you connect with, right? So for us, we have Virginia State University, right? You can do either one. And actually, how we use an organization like 4-H, and if you have older children, It's a great organization because what my daughters have been able to do over the years is to ask to run their own clubs, right? And so then we know exactly how it's going to be centered because we're running it, and I'm there in the background. And so what it does is it puts my children's faces out there, puts my face out there, and so that more Black and brown families would be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna try this, because a lot of times it is sort of rural, white farming families, and you never know. You may not feel, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you
I love everything that you're saying, because I will tell you, and that you all both mentioned the university. So I saw this morning that a lot of people are from Maryland. And so College Park, the University of Maryland College Park, is an extension center. Thank you for mentioning that, Alycia. And the University of Maryland Eastern Shore is an extension center. So I'm in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C. So UMES, which is the HBCU, is not accessible to us. However, I got on the 4-H. If I had friends like you all, and if I was homeschooling a community with you all when my daughter was younger, I would have known about 4-H earlier. But when I did learn about it, she was already an older teen, and so hadn't really gotten a lot of the benefits that Kendra spoke of, like the leadership opportunities. And at the time you get into it, a community has been formed. So for those who are in Maryland and in the Prince George's County, Maryland area, it is really a strong Black-led organization in our area. And what we did benefit from, and I say we because we participate in these activities with our daughter, was we became more familiar with the parks in our area that we hadn't known about before. And there's a park in Prince George's County that has a farm. And so a lot of activities were around engaging in these park spaces that are also doubling as farm area. And so I appreciate Alycia also bringing up the history of this organization, because the reason why a lot of us don't even know about 4-H is because we think of it being connected to white people, and not just white people, but a history of white people that don't like Black people. And so I mean that's really what it is. But in it is definitely a resource now that I'm seeing across the board being used no matter where the area you are in the nation. So that was something. Thank you so much. And I'm seeing people in the chat posting. Nicole Doyle, I know, is located in Georgia. Natalie Mack, says headed to the 4-H Ignite STEAM conference in March, and her son Nathaniel is joining Alicia's daughter for a conference in April. That's fantastic. So that means, Natalie, that you are most likely part of the 4-H in our area, which is fantastic. So I would like for you all to speak to. We know about these organizations now. We know what foraging is. We know what your intentions were into being more connected to nature. What are some of the things that the children are telling you when you engage them in these activities that are out in nature? What are some of the things that they're asking you to teach them more about or give them more access to when it comes to learning through nature? And that, I know that's a big question, but if there's anything that you can think of in particular.
Okay, I have one. Mine is it's a mixed bag because people will normally, think like, the children would actually be into it. So out of my three kids, one, my son, when from the time he was born, everything for him was about animals, right? I'm plants, he's animals. So we were able to coexist beautifully out in walks because he can look at worms and all kinds of insects, and I can look at plants. And one of the ways that I got him to understand plants and even learn was that we'll look at what the animals that he likes, what they will eat. We had a guinea pig, so we'll forage the guinea pig food. Instead of buying the food, we'll go and we'll start to forage them. So that was my way to start to get him to be interested in wanting to learn the plants. Because without that part, it was just kind of like, okay, but I want to touch a bug or I want to read about the dinosaurs. So I had to find something of interest to keep him there where he'll want to learn, to the point where I could be like, okay, go get your guinea pig some food. He'll know where to go, and then he'll know what plants to pick out. For my daughters, my last one, the one that's 11 years old, she spent the least amount of time with me out in nature. She still goes, but she did tell me at one point, when she was able to express herself, she was like, "Well, mommy, I don't want to go on walks with you guys. That is your thing. That's not really my thing. Like, I like nature, I get it, but I'm good on that." So with her, she still learned some things when we did go to walks, but I'll look at what's interesting to her. So for her, it was flowers. So I will spend time when it was flowering time, like in spring, right? Then I'll bring her out because I know she will enjoy those moments. But we can't do long walks because she'll complain.
I
Um,
think I was
with
like your daughter when I was younger. My mother was a forager. She was a gardener, would have me out there. We would be picking dandelion and stuff. And it actually was embarrassing at some point when someone would ask me what I was doing and to say I was in the backyard picking weeds with my mother for salad, you know. But as an adult, I'm like horrified with how, ignorant I was. And so I appreciate you sharing that the children aren't necessarily going to be like, yes, let's go pick. And what you share about your son, I feel is really a great entry point. In the flowers, like I can say wholeheartedly, if my mother entered from the perspective of the flowers or drying flowers and things like that, that would have been of interest. Can I pop over to Kendra and Alycia to see what are some things that they've done to really engage their children and the ways that their children have expressed that they've liked it?
I would love to share on this. So my oldest two are traditional learners, like self-motivated, all of this. My son and my youngest daughter are more hands-on activity. My youngest daughter can live outside. And her thing is she loves animals. So she's not so much the gardener, but although I do have her come out and help and whatnot, but she loves, like, we have ducks, we have 3 dogs, we have rabbits, and she loves them to death. No, I mean, she just really loves them. So nature and outdoors has been a really good avenue for her to learn what it means to be responsible, what it that other people's lives or other animals' lives are dependent on you being consistent with going out to feed. Same thing, my son, who is, I call him Negative Ned, but don't tell him that. But he is a bright young man. Um, but he didn't take to gardening at first. But then, like, he grumbled and whatnot, but then he started to care. And I mean, he cares about his plants. um, he has really taken off, and I knew that he had a passion for gardening when he would go and research things and go and read things and try to impress upon me, no, do it this way. No, I want to grow this. And he has a green thumb. So I struggle with seedlings, but he has become like a master at getting seedlings started, and then transplanting them. And he is consistent. He One of my dogs messed up his fig tree. He was ready to get rid of the dog. He was hot. Okay. So so and from, not just from gardening, but you'll be surprised at where these things takes you. My son primarily cares for the ducks on a consistent basis, but he likes to work with his hands. And so he's been all gung ho about learning how to work with his hands to build things.
That's
So now he wants to
fantastic.
build a duck coop, a better duck coop.
Wow. No,
And
so
I
no, you didn't say fig tree. You got ducks. You have a full-fledged farm over there. That's amazing. That's amazing. I see in the chat that Alycia posted a cute picture book is Sam the Junior Herbalist to introduce kids to herbalism and foraging. So and Angela has been fantastic posting keeping my son interested in gardening was easier as he was younger. Now I relate gardening to other aspects of life in the world, nutrition, poverty, sustainability. She says, my son cares about his plants when he knows that he can sell them. I know that's right. I don't know if World of Money, our sponsor, is in here, but that sounds like that that's a sponsor you need to connect him to. But I want Alicia to be able to jump in and to share because I know that you run a homeschool co-op, so it's not only your children that you're engaging with nature, but you have a whole host of other children who are participating in these activities. What are some of the things that they are saying to you in addition to your children?
Yeah, so the little ones really just love to be outdoors and run and play. And so then, of course, learning is through experience and through just, oh, there's a creek there. Do you notice all the erosion? Or how do you think, what do you think the intersection of between this erosion and this creek? You notice these trees are leaning. Should we be out here with these trees leaning? You know, so we just do a lot of observation. Um, we've introduced sit circles to children where you identify a tree or a place and you go and you observe that place over time through seasons to journal, draw. I feel like nature journaling is really important. Number one, because kids are losing the dexterity of holding a pencil because of the introduction of technology. But so just practicing those skills are actually helpful in a number of ways. I will say that my children have always loved nature. My oldest, I mean, one of my children became vegetarian because she was concerned about the impacts. One thing was the impacts of animals on, or the processing of animals on climate change, and so that's part of why she is vegetarian, as well as not wanting to, to kill animals. But my youngest one, when you said the money, she's the one who's probably grown up with this version of me for the last 11, 12 years. The other ones had other versions of me. And so this one has always seen me making medicine and doing all the things. And what was interesting is she really became interested when she learned that she could sell her herbs at the farmer's market and make money. So then this one was like, oh, let's start she has an Instagram. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Please follow her. She's only 11. I'm plugging it, but she's not
You
selling
can
nothing.
plug the babies. You can plug the babies. But
Uh,
can I hop on something that you said?
yeah.
This version of me. I love that so much.
Mm.
Because aren't we different versions? Especially folks with multiples. I'm the oldest of five kids. And so I was my mother's first child. She had me at 19. And then I have siblings who are now in their 30s. I just turned 51 this past December. So when we even are talking about our mother, it's this different person. Was not the same person that had named a Khadijah Ali-Coleman as she was for my youngest two siblings, right? Linnea and Rashida. So this version of you. So I would love it if you all, and at this time, I would love it if those who are listening to this talk, if you can post your questions in the chat so that we can next move to question Q&A. But I want our guests to answer this question about this version of you. So everyone, I'm sure listening, it sounds like you have a lot of kindred souls who are spirits who are engaging in some of the practices that you're doing. But I know that a lot of people on this call may be interested, but may not know what that entry point is to begin to engage their children in activities that are connecting them to nature in some format. I tell you, Kendra, I don't know if we have the ability to have ducks in our backyard. My daughter would have loved that when we were homeschooling. But what are some of those small steps that you took before you all got to where you are now? Journey, you're leading groups and doing all these things with foraging, but I also know that foraging was a part of your practice even before this became a service that you offered as a class. If you can give us some small steps and ways that a novice can really begin to and you've given us a little bit, but I would even go as far to say, like for me, I grew up with a mother who was always having me outside, and I was always rebelling against that. Especially when she had me doing heavy labor in her garden. It was like I told her, like, this is slave trauma. Like I don't know what I don't want to be out in these fields. Stop it, And she was so disgusted with me. But now, I wish that I had the legacy that, especially now that she's no longer living. When my daughter was younger, it was rocks, things that she liked to collect. And so now as an adult, she's way more connected to nature than I am. And Alycia, when you were mentioning the sitting in parks and journaling, that's a practice that she developed for herself. When I would take her to the park, she made the decision to take her journal and to start writing because she's a writer. Can you all give some ways, some bite-sized ways that parents can begin to engage with nature if this isn't part of their ministry, as they say? You know, this isn't some, they're not like you all with plots of land or this level of engagement with the outside.
I think it's like, especially if you're not naturally a person who enjoys being outdoors. And I've met people like that because I'll say, "You want to go for a walk?" And they're like, "Oh, bugs." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's just not naturally like space they're comfortable with. And even me growing up in the inner city, we didn't have a lot of nature. The woods around us were not places you wanted to go. Okay. It was not. And it wasn't until, but I still loved outdoors, right? And if my parents would go down by the water or something, it was still really beautiful. And so I think when my daughter was very little, we had like some daffodils or something growing into the yard. And so she went to our first experience was Montessori. And so she would come in and do like little flower arranging in a little vase and put it on her little table. And it was all beautiful and do her little work. And I remember just one day it was like, let's look inside of the flower. We're dissecting the petals and looking at the stamens and looking at all the little pieces. And one thing I'll say about Montessori, and you can look curriculum up, is that they are very intentional about the curriculum around nature, meaning they're beautiful little cards, beautiful little penmanship things, lovely pictures. It's all very real pictures, no like cartoony things. And so that I think really helped us develop a deeper appreciation, but also just saying we're just going to take a nature walk. And then we even got into a big thing when my daughter really loved the moon. And so we would do a full moon party every month. So, and this is something I've been thinking about bringing back. If people are interested, please send me a note. Because I love this. So each moon has, here in Turtle Island, North America, each moon has an indigenous name to it, right? So the wolf moon, the flower moon, and all these moons. And so there are all these little activities and things you can do around it. But also you can pull into the fact that there are people who garden using a lunar calendar, right? The idea is that the moon and the gravitational pull pulls the roots up a little bit faster. And there's a whole like world around that that's really beautiful to explore. And so I guess what I'm saying is find what it is that your children are interested in that you can also somewhat get interested in. Keep a really, the moment you say, "Oh, I hate outside, I hate these," what, then you hear it, children, you hear those voices in your head. So that would be my suggestion. Figure out what it is about outdoors that you can do that you like to do, and then just do a deep dive and let the kids lead the way.
That's wonderful. I definitely, my mother definitely took that route with me. I love reading an ephemeris, and it was connected to other things that I was interested in, like mythology and folklore. And so that's an excellent example. Journey or Kendra, do you have something you want to share?
I can share that when I first started homeschooling, the parks and the library were our go-to places. And so it started with going into the different, we have like so many parks where we live. We would pick pecans and different things. And then later, we started, a garden during COVID. But one of the biggest things that I think also has helped to impact my kids is tying it back to our history. So for example, my grand my grandmother or her or my great-grandparents, they owned a farm during a time when Black people did not own land, and they had an orchard, they had a pond, they had, all kinds of things, and that has always resonated with me, and it's always, I've always admired that, and so, every all of my children have read Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, which is an excellent story, but it was a launch board to share with them about our history, that we owned land. We had this land. My grandmother was one of 11 children, and that land was split up when my great-grandparents passed away. But they were big on education, and they were big on they had this land. So, I think miring it, or not miring, because that's another negative connotation word, really connecting the kids back to history. Like, for example, telling them like, "Hey, my great-grandmother was a contemporary of Harriet Tubman. So don't let anybody tell you that slavery and Jim Crow and these things were a long time ago. And looking at the contributions that Black people have made, like George Washington Carver, that helps them to see that gardening, land, and those things is not just important or like now, it has always been a part of our legacy and our history. So,
Thank you for bringing George Washington Carver's name into this conversation because I think we do him a grand injustice when we minimize him as the creator of peanut butter. And he was actually a genius. There's no limit to the things that this man brought us, but his connectivity, when we are even talking about someone being in tune with nature, um, there he was identifying a language that plants spoke. You know, the brilliance. Ford would come to him as an advisor, and the way that the engine of a car was created was based on the teachings of George Washington Carver and the patterns that he had identified in nature. And so thank you for bringing his name into the conversation, because I always, whenever anyone mentions him, I'm like, do you know who this man was? And the fact that people can literally go on YouTube and hear his voice, see video of him, engaging in the work that we only know a thimble sized amount of what his contribution was. So thank you for that. Journey, was there anything that you wanted to add to this?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure. Um, so I think there's a lot of easy way of doing this when it comes to nature. And I like to just keeping it simple, right? Just going for a nature walk, right? As homeschoolers, we have to get that fresh air and be outside. Any botanical gardens that might be near you, visiting that and seeing if anything catches your child's interest. Um, you know, looking at the parks department always have like rangers where they have activities out in nature, whether it's fishing, hiking, doing some gardening. So I think connecting to those pieces is great because you have an easy access point, but also just going outside. If there's a wood or a forest nearby you, just going for a walk without any kind of, there's no intention behind it, just to go for a walk and enjoy that time, and having it being an experience in the beginning rather than necessarily a lesson where we're talking, right? Ooh, did you see that? What is that? What do you think this means? Direction, you can kind of notice, does your child pay attention to direction? Are they going to remember how you got there? How do we get back? So it brings out so many topics. So I that's how I started it with my kids, whichever interest that they all have. Even when I lead groups, everyone comes in for something different. If for you is health, then you can focus on anything healing that's in the space. If it's music, then listen to the sounds of the birds, picking days and season that might be beneficial to you. And if you can't get outside, that's also okay. You can look at beautiful images online through pictures just to get you started and being in that space, because I think it's something that is personal. That is how I see it when it comes to nature. And another thing that I also wanted to add to something that you said, that as a child you wasn't interested, but then as an adult you became interested. I know that that's the norm amongst the adult. That's just something that naturally happened. And what I do now is that, because I know that when my children get a certain age, that they're going to look back and going to want this information. So I put information aside. I have this book that I am building up just for that, so that when I'm no longer here, and then you're like, oh, remember, you have something that can take you back where you can start to learn when they are ready. When a child is ready for something, it doesn't matter what age, whether they're in adulthood, even us as an adult, look at how much we put into it. And then to know that your parent have left something for you that you can kind of go back and relearn and see it in a different light. So that's what I do. I have that because I know their interests, it goes in and out. So, yeah.
That's so well. That's such wise words. My partner, he actually said that when we were homeschooling about my daughter and her interest in music, and I would always harass him like, "You, why don't you lead a session on that?" He was like, "She will come when she is ready," and she did, and she, they did music theory together. She taught herself how to play multiple instruments, and they started producing, but it was when she was ready. So I love there's such wisdom in that. So I don't see any questions. I see Angela, that is always a struggle for me. Connection before class. My son says, "Does everything have to be a lesson?" Because we out of control a lot of times, aren't we? But I don't see any questions. But I would ask you all, you three panelists, kindly, if you could go to the message board, and for the message that is for your session, if you can post some of the things that you've been posting, Alycia, and your daughter's link, don't forget that as well. But if you can post ways that people can learn more about what it is that you all do, what you offer on this topic, but any links where folks can learn more about you. And if you are there, if folks that are listening, you have questions, if you can post them there, I think that would probably be easier instead of forcing people to think of a question now. But so I'm going to end this workshop, this panel, but I am going to say Journey, Kendra, and Alycia are prime examples of walking the walk. I encourage everyone to follow them on social media, yes, but definitely take a look at the things that they are contributing to our community. And when I say our community as homeschoolers, but also I think are representative of the Agency of Black parents and Black educators. And a lot of times we look to, when we are thinking of education, we're thinking of it through the lens of those outside of us. And we're not seeing the ways that our education and what we're educating our children, how it can then impact our community. And I think this topic itself, but just the work of these three women, are showing how the children are being educated, but their education, they are exploring and expressing an interest for what they wind up doing to be brought back to their community. And for me, that is when education is successful, that those we educate want to then come back to the community to contribute, to continue to whether it's contending with the community, but engaging with the community in a positive vein. That is when education is successful. So I thank you so much for continuing to be in community with me, for being here today and sharing your brilliance. And if you can make your way to the message board, we will see everyone else for our next session. Bye, everybody. Happy New Year.